Kathy and Dave Fletcher, and we've been coming to East Palm Church for about 2 years almost now. And what brought us here was I recently was diagnosed with cancer, and while we were Catholics in the past, when we came to East Palm Church, we felt that it was a great sense of community, and we've really liked the environment. When we walked in, we felt like everybody was loving and just welcomed us, and they reached out their hand graciously, even though we were not a member of the church here, to help us get through the most difficult time of our life.
Yeah, we were going to Triple C. Our school for our son closed down, so we went to Triple C. And I met Pastor Dave one day. I was sitting in the back during the Christmas musical, and he came up to me and he introduced himself, and he goes, "Hey," well, I thought he was a regular guy. I didn't even know he was a pastor. And he introduced himself to me. He goes, "Hey, what's your name? What are you doing?" I said, "It's my son up there. He's, singing in the musical." And he goes, "Hey, you ever think about coming? You want to come here on a Sunday and worship? Feel free." So I went home to Kath, and I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm a pretty interesting dude today, and I think I might go Sunday and check out the church." Because we were looking for some place to go, and we hadn't found our home. And it seemed like God was pushing us in that direction. So I got to the church that day, and I was just, as soon as I walked through the door, I'm a big believer when I walk through the door, if you get that feeling, you're in the right place. And I was just blown away. I walked through that door, and people are coming up to me, and they're like, "Hey, I'm Harry. Hey, I'm this. Hey, I'm like, oh, hey, I'm Dave." I was blown away. And I went inside, and then we went through the service, and I got all choked up, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my. So I went home to Kath, and I'm like, "Hey, we're going to go to this church." I said, "It's like no other church you've been at. So I'm just going to give you a heads up. It's a little bit different." So we go, and she goes, "You're going to go back to church again this week?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going every week. This is pretty cool." So we went in and brought the family, and the family really enjoyed the atmosphere and could feel the love in the church, and everything that the church has been doing for my wife. I mean, these are people that we have never met before in my life, never. And they've handed, put out their hand and said, "What can we do for you?" You got Maureen Sabina, you have Brad, you have Laurie, you have the people from our life group, which is another thing where we got involved in a life group. And I would never be involved in a life group 5 years ago, 10 years ago. That wasn't me. And what God did for us is he put us in this church for a certain reason, to help us go through our plight, I think, with lung cancer and everything. And the life group thing was awesome, because we got bad news from our last scan. And I was an emotional wreck this time. I took on Kathy's side of it this time, and I was crying constantly. I'm like, what is going on here? So then I got together with our life group, and my life group just was phenomenal. I mean, Peter and Ken and everybody was there that night. It was the best medicine I could ever had. And it's just amazing. I said that to Kath. I was just blown away. So it's an amazing place. If people would come here just for the first time, and it's amazing. Because like I said, I was away from the church for a while. Ever since my brother passed away, I was away from church for 10 years. I was hating God for a while because I just didn't understand why God would do something. And it isn't God's fault. Things happen for a special reason. And it seemed like God set our path up with us and our children. And now we're in a good place. We're in a great place. And I appreciate Dave for coming by that night or that day and saying, "Hey, I'm Dave." "Hey, Dave, I'm Dave. What's going on?" So I'll never forget that. Like I said, I told my wife that. I'll never forget that. So that's our story.